Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at authority
Oh,
and how it works and how you can cultivate it in your own life. Our guide for this deep dive is Robert Greene's The Laws of Human Nature, specifically Chapter 15, where he unpacks this whole idea of authority and leadership.
yeah. What's so intriguing about this topic is that it reveals this fundamental paradox in human nature.
Oh.
We crave leadership. We want someone to guide us,
Mm.
but at the same time, we kind of resent those who are above us.
Yeah.
It's this push and pull that plays out in every corner of our lives, whether it's at work,
Yeah.
in our families, or even in our broader society.
That's such a great point.
Yeah.
It's like we're constantly looking for guidance and direction, but then the moment someone steps into that leadership role, a part of us instinctively resists. It's almost like we're wired for this inner conflict.
Exactly. And Green traces this ambivalence all the way back to childhood. Think about it as kids. We depend on our parents for everything. They're our protectors, our providers, the ultimate authority figures in our early lives. But as we grow, we also crave independence. We want to assert our own, we'll make our own choices.
Right.
So right from the start, we're experiencing this mix of dependence and rebellion when it comes to authority.
That makes so much sense.
There's-
And it seems like those early dynamics with our parents end up shaping how we view all authority figures throughout our lives. It's like
Uh-huh.
we're projecting those childhood patterns onto our bosses, our teachers, even our political leaders.
You hit the nail on the head. We might admire a leader's strength and competence on the surface, but underneath, there's often this lingering sense of suspicion
Yeah.
or resentment, a holdover from those early struggles for independence.
Okay, so let's talk about that resentment a little bit. Green uses this term fickleness to describe how quickly public opinion can turn against a leader. It's like 1 minute they're on top of the world, and next they're facing calls for resignation or impeachment. What's going on there?
Well, think of it this way. Leaders often mistake outward signs of respect,
But-
like people following orders or attending rallies, for genuine loyalty. They don't realize that beneath that surface compliance, there's often the simmering undercurrent of ambivalence,
Right.
ready to erupt at the first sign of weakness or a misstep.
So it's like this illusion of support, this fragile facade that can crumble pretty quickly when a leader falters.
Yeah.
That's a pretty precarious position to be in.
It absolutely is, and history is full of examples of this, right?
Mm.
Green talks about how in ancient cultures, it was common practice to depose or even execute leaders who were perceived as weak or ineffective.
Wow. That's
Right.
pretty intense. And while we might not be executing our leaders anymore, it seems like that same dynamic is still at play today, just in a different form.
Right.
Think about how quickly public opinion can shift
Mm-hmm.
based on a single scandal or a perceived failure. It's like that underlying resentment bubbles to the surface and suddenly everyone's calling for their heads.
It's a pattern that repeats itself throughout history, whether it's elections, media trials,
Mhm.
or even social media pile-ons.
Right.
The moment a leader stumbles, that hidden resentment can explode, and support evaporates incredibly fast. It's almost like this collective "I told you so" moment, where people feel validated in their initial skepticism.
Okay, so if authority is this fragile,
Yeah.
if it can be lost so quickly, how can anyone build a lasting foundation of respect and influence?
Mm-hmm.
How do we break out of this cycle of fickle support and constant suspicion?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And Green argues that the key lies in understanding the difference between true authority and what he calls the entitlement curse.
Okay.
You see many people in positions of power fall into this trap of believing that authority is automatically conferred upon them because of their title, their wealth, or their social status.
Ah, the entitlement curse. It's like that older sibling who thinks they can boss everyone around.
Yeah.
Just because they were born first.
Yeah.
But in reality, that kind of attitude usually just breeds resentment, not respect.
Exactly. And that's the problem with the entitlement curse. It creates this distance between the leader and those they're supposed to be leading. It stifles creativity. It breeds resentment.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it undermines their effectiveness.
So what's the alternative? If true authority isn't about demanding respect or expecting obedience, how do we actually earn it?
That's where Green's insights get really interesting. He argues that true authority isn't something you're given. It's something you earn through actions that inspire trust and respect over time. He points to the Roman model of leadership
Okay.
as a great example of this.
Roman model. Tell me more.
The Romans believed that true authority stemmed from embodying the wisdom and virtues of their ancestors, leaders who demonstrated those ideals.
Yep.
Things like courage, justice, self-discipline naturally commanded respect. They didn't have to resort to force or coercion because people willingly followed their lead.
That sounds great in theory, but what does that look like in practice? How do we translate those ancient Roman ideals into the complexities of modern leadership? It seems like we need a more concrete example to really grasp this concept.
You're absolutely right. And luckily, Green provides us with a fascinating case study. Queen Elizabeth I.
Okay.
She inherited a fractured and weakened England, facing skepticism from powerful men who doubted a young woman's ability to rule.
Wow. Queen Elizabeth I. Talk about a trial by fire. A young woman stepping into a leadership role in a world dominated by men, facing internal strifes and external threats. It sounds like she was up against some serious obstacles.
She was a master at turning perceived weakness into a strategic advantage.
That's interesting.
Instead of demanding obedience, she emphasized service, tirelessly working for the good of England. And demonstrating her commitment to the people, she cleverly downplayed her power, creating a sense of approachability and connection that resonated with the public. It's a great example of how rejecting the entitlement curse can actually enhance your authority.
It's almost like she understood that true power comes from serving something larger than yourself. It's not about ego or personal gain. It's about dedicating yourself to a higher purpose, to the well-being of the people you lead. That's a pretty powerful concept.
Absolutely. And Queen Elizabeth's reign is full of examples of how she skillfully applied those principles. But one instance that really highlights the complexities of authority is her handling of Mary, Queen of Scots.
Ah, yes, Mary, Queen of Scots. Her cousin and Catholic rival who posed a significant threat to Elizabeth's rule. That must have been an incredibly difficult situation to navigate.
Yeah.
What can we learn from how Elizabeth handled that challenge?
It was a delicate balancing act. Mary was seen by many Catholics as the rightful heir to the English throne, and there were constant plots and conspiracies swirling around her.
Oh, wow.
Elizabeth was under immense pressure to eliminate this threat,
Yeah.
but she hesitated for years.
That hesitation is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
It would have been so easy to just give in to that pressure, to see Mary as a purely political problem that needed to be solved. But it seems like Elizabeth understood that there was more at stake
Yeah.
than just neutralizing a rival.
Exactly. Elizabeth recognized that executing Mary, even if justified, would have serious consequences. It would alienate a significant portion of her Catholic subjects, potentially sparking rebellion or even inviting foreign intervention.
Yeah.
So she played a long game, carefully weighing her options and prioritizing the stability of England over her own personal feelings of insecurity or anger.
So it wasn't just about strategy, it was also about empathy and understanding the broader impact of her decisions. It sounds like she was really trying to walk that tightrope between protecting her own authority and maintaining the unity of the realm.
Precisely, and while her hesitation might have initially made her appear weak or indecisive to some, in the end, her decision to finally execute Mary, when it became clear that Mary was involved in a plot against her life, reinforced her authority. She showed that she was willing to make difficult choices, even unpopular ones, for the greater good of England.
It's a reminder that sometimes true leadership involves making tough calls, even when those decisions go against our personal inclinations or emotions.
Absolutely. And speaking of tough calls, Elizabeth's handling of another rival, Philip II of Spain, offers another fascinating glimpse into her mastery of authority.
Okay.
Philip, a powerful and ambitious king, severely underestimated Elizabeth,
Really?
viewing her as a weak woman unfit to rule.
Oh, man, underestimating Queen Elizabeth seems like a pretty big mistake. What happened?
Well, Philip, driven by religious zeal and a desire to restore England to Catholicism, launched the infamous Spanish Armada, a massive fleet intended to conquer England and depose Elizabeth. He thought it would be an easy victory, but he couldn't have been more wrong.
I've always been fascinated by the story of the Spanish Armada, this grand, almost mythical fleet setting sail to conquer England, and then disaster. What did Elizabeth do to turn the tide?
While Elizabeth famously hated war, seeing it as a drain on resources and a risk to her people's well-being, she was no fool. She had been shrewdly preparing for this possibility for years, investing in building a powerful navy and developing a sophisticated spy network. When the Armada arrived, the English were ready, and they dealt Philip a crushing defeat.
I bet that shut Philip up pretty quickly. It seems like she really understood the importance of preparation and long-term thinking.
Right.
When it came to maintaining authority, it wasn't just about reacting to immediate threats. It was about anticipating challenges and strategically positioning yourself to overcome them.
Exactly. And what's even more impressive is that even after this stunning victory, Elizabeth didn't let it go to her head. She didn't become arrogant or power-hungry. She remained focused on diplomacy, on maintaining peace and stability. recognizing that war, even when victorious, was a costly and risky endeavor.
So she knew when to exercise restraint, when to prioritize diplomacy over aggression. It's like she understood that true authority isn't about winning every battle, but about choosing your battles wisely and always keeping the bigger picture in mind.
That's a really insightful observation, and that brings us to a crucial point. Elizabeth's authority wasn't static, it was constantly evolving. Even as she aged and became a revered figure, she stayed attuned to the shifting dynamics of the court and the evolving needs of her people. She never stopped learning, never stopped adapting.
It's a reminder that building authority is an ongoing process, a journey, not a destination. We can't just rest on our laurels, relying on past successes or outdated strategies.
Right.
We need to stay flexible, adaptable, and responsive to the ever-changing world around us.
I completely agree, and that leads us perfectly into Green's exploration of specific strategies
Okay.
for cultivating authority in your own life. He starts by emphasizing the importance of authenticity, which he describes as finding your own unique leadership style.
Authenticity, I love that. In a world where everyone's trying to project a certain image, it's so refreshing to hear that being genuine is actually a key to authority. But how do we actually discover our authentic leadership style? It's not like we're all born knowing what kind of leader we're meant to be.
That's where Green's insights are so valuable. He identifies several different leadership archetypes, each with their own strengths and approaches.
Okay.
Understanding these archetypes can help us recognize our own natural tendencies and develop a leadership style that feels genuine and aligned with our values.
Okay, leadership archetypes. I'm hooked. Give me some examples.
Well, one archetype is the deliverer.
Okay.
Think of figures like Moses or Martin Luther King Jr. These leaders are driven by a profound sense of justice and a desire to liberate people from suffering or oppression. They possess incredible conviction and often have a gift for inspiring others through their words and actions.
That's a powerful archetype for sure. But not all of us are destined to lead revolutions or deliver people from oppression. What about those of us who are more focused on building businesses, creating art, or just making a positive impact in our own communities? Are there archetypes for those kinds of leadership roles as well?
Absolutely. Green also talks about the founder, the visionary leader who creates new systems or institutions. Think of entrepreneurs who disrupt industries, artists who challenge conventional aesthetics, or community organizers who build movements from the ground up.
Right.
These leaders thrive on innovation. They challenge the status quo, and they inspire others to join their quest for progress.
I can definitely see how that archetype resonates with a lot of people today, especially with the rise of entrepreneurship and the emphasis on innovation. But what about those who might not be comfortable in the spotlight? Are there archetypes for leaders who are more introspective or who prefer to work behind the scenes?
Absolutely. Green also highlights the truth seeker, the leader who values honesty and transparency above all else. These individuals are often driven by a deep sense of integrity and a commitment to uncovering the truth, even when it's uncomfortable or unpopular. They inspire trust through their unwavering commitment to ethical principles and their willingness to speak truth to power.
I see how that archetype would be essential in fields like journalism, science, or even law, where upholding truth and justice is paramount. But what about those who are more focused on the practicalities of getting things done? Are there archetypes for those who excel at problem solving and implementing solutions?
Of course, Green discusses the quiet pragmatist, the leader who is less concerned with grand visions and more focused on solving problems and achieving tangible results. These individuals are often highly organized, detail-oriented, and skilled at navigating complex situations. They inspire confidence through their competence, their reliability, and their ability to deliver on their promises.
I think we all know people who fit that archetype. They're the ones who quietly keep things running smoothly. The problem solvers who find solutions when everyone else is stuck in chaos. It's a valuable leadership style for sure, even if it's not always as flashy or attention-grabbing as some of the others.
Exactly, and it's important to remember that these are just a few examples. There are many other leadership archetypes, and the key is to identify the ones that resonate most deeply with you. It's not about forcing yourself into a mold, but about understanding your natural strengths and tendencies and using them to create a leadership style that feels authentic and impactful.
So it's about self-awareness and understanding what kind of leader we're meant to be, rather than trying to imitate someone else's style or follow some generic leadership formula.
Precisely, and once you've tapped into that authentic leadership style, you'll find that it resonates much more powerfully with others. People will sense your genuine conviction, and that will naturally draw them to you.
Okay, so finding our authentic leadership style is step one. What's the next strategy Green highlights?
He calls it focus outwardly.
Hi.
And it's all about shifting our attention away from our own ego and anxieties and directing it toward the needs and perspectives of others.
That sounds like a powerful mindset shift,
Yeah.
but it also sounds really challenging, especially in a world that often encourages us to be self-centered
Right.
and prioritize our own needs above all else. How do we actually make that shift, practically speaking?
Green offers some really practical advice. First, he suggests honing our listening skills,
Okay.
truly becoming masters at absorbing information, not just through words, but also through nonverbal cues and emotional undercurrents.
It's about becoming a truly active listener, not just waiting for our turn to speak, but really tuning in to what the other person is saying, both verbally and non-verbally.
Exactly. And second, he emphasizes the importance of dedicating ourselves to earning respect, not expecting it as an entitlement. This means demonstrating through our actions that we're genuinely working for the greater good,
Yeah.
not just pursuing personal gain or validation.
So it's about showing, not just telling,
Hmm.
people that we're worthy of their trust and respect.
Hmm.
Actions speak louder than words, especially when it comes to leadership.
Precisely. And third, he suggests cultivating a deep sense of responsibility,
Okay.
recognizing that our actions as leaders have a ripple effect on the lives of others. This isn't about becoming a people pleaser or sacrificing our own vision. It's
Wow.
about recognizing the interconnectedness of our roles and the impact our decisions have on the group or community we're leading.
That's a powerful perspective. It's a
Mm.
reminder that true leadership isn't just about achieving our own goals.
Mhm.
It's about serving something larger than ourselves, about making a positive impact on the world around us.
I couldn't agree more. And when you embody this outward focus, people feel it. They sense your genuine care and concern. And that creates a much stronger foundation for trust and connection,
Yeah.
which are essential for building lasting authority.
Okay, so we've got authenticity and an outward focus.
Yeah.
What's the third strategy Green dives into?
This one's called Cultivate the Third Eye.
Ooh, the third eye. I've always been fascinated by that concept. It sounds almost mystical, like something out of a spiritual tradition.
Huh.
But how does that translate into practical leadership skills?
Green uses a fascinating historical anecdote to illustrate this principle.
Okay.
He tells the story of Xenophon, a Greek writer and philosopher who found himself trapped with 10,000 mercenary soldiers in the heart of Persia after a failed military campaign.
Okay, 10,000 soldiers trapped in enemy territory. That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
How did they escape?
Their leaders had been tricked and executed,
Oh, wow.
and the remaining soldiers were facing imminent death or enslavement. But in that moment of crisis, Xenophon stepped up, not because he had military experience, but because he had a vision.
A vision. What kind of vision?
He saw a way for the Greeks to escape.
Okay.
He envisioned them moving swiftly and strategically through Persia, sacrificing everything for speed, utilizing the terrain to their advantage, and even leveraging local rebellions to create diversions.
So he saw a path to survival that no one else could imagine.
Exactly. And what's remarkable is that Xenophon, despite having no formal authority, managed to inspire the soldiers with his vision. They recognized his strategic thinking, his ability to see beyond the immediate crisis, and chart a course to safety.
Wow.
And ultimately, against all odds, he led them to freedom.
That's an incredible story.
Yeah.
It really highlights the power of vision and strategic thinking,
Mm-hmm.
especially in times of crisis.
Mm.
But how do we cultivate that third eye, that ability to see beyond the present moment
Mm-hmm.
and anticipate future possibilities?
Green argues that it's a skill we can all develop. It's about training ourselves to step back from the emotional chaos of the moment, to elevate our perspective, and to think strategically about how events might unfold.
Yeah.
It involves asking questions like, what are the potential long-term consequences of this decision? Or what are the emerging trends that could impact our future?
So it's about becoming more proactive,
Yes.
less reactive,
Yeah.
and more strategic in our thinking.
Mhm.
Instead of just getting swept along by the current of events,
Yeah.
we're consciously steering the ship, anticipating challenges and opportunities before they fully materialize.
Precisely. And when you develop this ability, you naturally command more respect and authority.
Yeah.
People are drawn to those who can see what others can't, who can anticipate challenges and opportunities before they become obvious.
It's like becoming a chess grandmaster. You're not just focused on the next move. You're thinking several steps ahead,
Right.
anticipating your opponent's moves,
Right.
and planning your strategy accordingly. That's a powerful analogy for leadership.
I love that analogy. And it brings us to Green's next strategy, which he calls lead from the front.
Lead from the front. That sounds pretty straightforward. What does that involve?
It's all about setting a strong example through your own actions.
Okay.
It means working as hard as or harder than those you lead,
Right.
holding yourself to the highest standards, and being willing to make sacrifices for the good of the group.
So it's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Mm.
People are much more likely to follow someone who embodies the values and behaviors they admire, rather than someone who just lectures them about it.
Exactly. And Green emphasizes the importance of being both demanding and supportive.
Demanding and supportive, those seem like opposite qualities. How do they work together in effective leadership?
It's about finding that sweet spot between challenge and support.
Okay.
It's about setting high expectations for those you lead, while also providing the guidance and encouragement they need to succeed. It's about pushing people to grow and stretch beyond their comfort zones, but doing so in a way that feels empowering, not demoralizing.
So it's not about being a tyrant who barks orders and expects blind obedience. It's about creating a culture of excellence where people feel challenged, supported, and inspired to do their best work.
Exactly. And this is where that outward focus we talked about earlier comes into play. When you genuinely care about the well-being of those you lead,
Yeah.
you're naturally more attuned to their needs and more likely to provide the right balance of challenge and support.
Okay, so we've got authenticity and outward focus, the third eye, and leading from the front. What's Green's next strategy for building authority?
He calls this one stir conflicting emotions.
Stirring conflicting emotions. That sounds a little bit manipulative, doesn't it?
Uh.
Like we're trying to play mind games with people.
I understand why it might sound that way at first, but it's not about being intentionally deceptive or manipulative. It's about embracing and expressing the natural complexity of your character.
Okay.
Green argues that most people try to present a consistent, predictable persona because they want to appear likable and relatable.
Which can sometimes make them seem a bit one-dimensional
Ah.
or even boring.
Exactly. But those who command authority often have a certain mystique about them. They're not afraid to show different sides of themselves, even seemingly contradictory qualities.
So it's about being more multifaceted, more unpredictable, more intriguing. It's like those characters in books or movies who are both good and bad. Strong and vulnerable, brilliant and flawed. We can't quite figure them out, and that's what keeps us captivated.
That's a great analogy, and Green emphasizes that this aura of complexity needs to feel authentic, not contrived.
Right.
It's about tapping into the full range of your personality, not trying to manufacture a persona that doesn't resonate with who you truly are.
So it's not about being someone we're not,
Yeah.
but rather about being more fully ourselves.
Right.
Even the parts that we might normally try to hide or downplay. It's about embracing our contradictions and letting people see the full spectrum of who we are.
Exactly. And this leads to another intriguing aspect of this strategy, balancing presence and absence.
Presence and absence. How does that play into building authority?
Green argues that if we're too constantly present,
Yeah.
too readily available, we lose a certain mystique.
Okay.
We become too familiar, too ordinary.
Right.
But if we're too aloof, too distant, people can't connect with us. He suggests leaning slightly more towards absence, creating a sense of anticipation and excitement when we do appear.
It's like the saying, absence makes the heart grow fonder. If we're constantly around, people might start to take us for granted. But if we make ourselves a little bit scarce, they'll appreciate our presence more when we are around.
Precisely, and this applies to how much we talk as well. Green emphasizes the power of silence, arguing that those who command authority often speak less, choosing their words carefully, and allowing silence to create a sense of weight and presence.
That's interesting. It's like we often feel the need to fill every silence, to constantly assert ourselves. But maybe there's power in holding back, in letting our presence be felt even when we're not speaking.
Right.
It's about quality over quantity, both in our words and our actions.
That's a fantastic insight, and it's a skill that takes practice, especially in our fast-paced, information-saturated world.
Okay, so we've got authenticity and outward focus, the third eye, leading from the front, stirring conflicting emotions, and balancing presence and absence. Is there anything else Green recommends for cultivating authority?
Yes, he highlights one more crucial strategy. Never appear to take, always to give.
Never take, always give. That sounds like a pretty high bar. What does that look like in practice? It seems like in most leadership roles, there's an inherent element of taking. Leaders make decisions, they delegate tasks, and sometimes they even have to make tough choices. That might not be popular with everyone.
You're right, there is an element of taking inherent in leadership. But Green's point is about being mindful of how we take,
Okay.
and ensuring that we're always giving back more than we're taking. It's about recognizing that taking things from people, whether it's their time, their resources, or even their sense of security,
Right.
can erode trust and undermine authority.
So it's not about never making demands or setting expectations, but rather about being conscious of the impact of our actions on others and ensuring that we're not exploiting or taking advantage of people.
Exactly. And Green emphasizes that if sacrifices are necessary, the leader should be the first to make them. It's about demonstrating a willingness to put the needs of the group above your own, to share in the burdens as well as the rewards.
It makes me think about how much resentment we feel when we perceive someone as taking more than their fair share
Right.
or prioritizing their own interests over the needs of the group. That kind of behavior destroys trust and makes it impossible to build genuine authority.
Exactly. And Green extends this principle to the realm of promises. He cautions against overpromising,
Okay.
arguing that it's better to underpromise and overdeliver.
Because broken promises erode trust.
Yep.
And create a sense of disappointment. It's better to set realistic expectations and then exceed them, rather than making grand promises that you can't keep.
Precisely. And when you consistently deliver on your promises, even exceeding expectations, you build a reputation for reliability and integrity, which are essential foundations for authority.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Authenticity, outward focus, the third eye, leading from the front, stirring conflicting emotions, balancing presence and absence, and never appearing to take, always to give. Those are some powerful strategies. But how do we know if we're actually applying them effectively? How do we avoid becoming complacent or falling back into old patterns?
That's where the final element of Green's framework comes in. He emphasizes the crucial importance of adaptability.
Okay, adaptability makes sense. We can't just rely on the same tactics or strategies forever.
Right.
The world is too complex and ever-changing for that. We need to stay flexible and responsive to new challenges and opportunities.
Exactly. And Green highlights two key aspects of adaptability. The first is maintaining a high degree of sensitivity to the moods and dynamics of those around you.
So it's about staying attuned to the emotional landscape, noticing shifts in energy and sentiment, and adjusting our approach accordingly. It's about being empathetic and responsive to the needs of the people we're leading.
Precisely. And the second aspect is seeking out new markets and audiences, constantly expanding the reach of your authority, and challenging yourself to adapt to new contexts and perspectives.
That's a great point. It's about staying curious, staying open to new experiences, and avoiding the trap of complacency or getting stuck in our own echo chambers. We need to be willing to step outside of our comfort zones and engage with diverse perspectives if we want to continue to grow and evolve as leaders.
You've hit the nail on the head. And Green argues that this kind of adaptability keeps our authority fresh and vibrant, preventing it from becoming stale or stagnant.
Right.
It allows us to stay ahead of the curve, anticipate changes, and continuously refine our leadership approach to meet the ever-evolving demands of the world.
This is all so fascinating, and it's giving me a lot to think about in terms of my own leadership style and how I can cultivate more genuine authority in my life. But we haven't talked much about inner authority. Green touches on that concept as well, right? Could you elaborate on what he means by that?
Absolutely. He argues that cultivating inner authority is just as crucial as mastering the outer strategies we've been discussing. It's about recognizing the ongoing struggle between our higher and lower selves and consciously strengthening the voice of our higher self, the voice that guides us toward purpose, discipline, and contribution.
Okay, the higher and lower selves. I think we can all relate to that inner battle. On the one hand, we have these aspirations, these ideals that we strive for, but then there's that other part of us that's lazy,
Yeah.
selfish,
Yeah.
and resistant to change. It's like a constant tug of war between who we want to be and who we actually are.
You've captured it perfectly. It's an ongoing struggle. But Green argues that we can strengthen our inner authority by consciously choosing to align ourselves with our higher selves,
Okay.
with those qualities that inspire us to become better versions of ourselves.
So how do we actually do that? How do we strengthen that inner authority?
Yeah.
It seems like a very internal, almost intangible process.
You're right, it is an internal process, but it can be cultivated through concrete actions. Green starts by emphasizing the importance of recognizing our responsibility to contribute to the world.
It's about moving beyond a purely self-centered perspective and embracing a sense of purpose that extends beyond our own immediate needs and desires.
Exactly. And Green links this sense of purpose to the importance of cultivating our individuality. He urges us to stop blindly following the crowd, to question our assumptions, and to discover and express what makes us unique.
That's such a powerful message. It's a reminder that true authority, both internal and external, comes from embracing who we truly are, not trying to fit into some predefined mold or conform to societal expectations. It's
Right.
about having the courage to be ourselves, even when it feels uncomfortable or unconventional.
I completely agree. And this individuality, this
Yeah.
sense of self-reliance, is essential for resisting the constant distractions and temptations that can pull us away from our higher purpose. It's about having the inner strength to stay true to our values and goals, even when faced with pressure or opposition.
So it's about developing the discipline and focus to pursue what truly matters, even when it's difficult or demanding. It's about resisting those impulses that lead to procrastination, self-sabotage, or settling for mediocrity.
Precisely. And this brings us to one of Green's core principles for cultivating inner authority, prioritizing focus and discipline in our lives.
Okay, focus and discipline. Those qualities definitely come up again and again when we're talking about authority, both internal and external. But how do we actually cultivate those qualities? They seem so elusive, especially in a world that's constantly bombarding us with distractions and vying for our attention.
It's a constant challenge for sure. But Green argues that we need to be ruthlessly selective with our time and energy. It's about cutting out distractions,
Okay.
setting boundaries, and prioritizing the activities that truly align with our values and goals.
It's like we need to become the CEOs of our own lives, making conscious decisions about how we spend our time and energy, rather than just reacting to whatever pops up in our inboxes or on our social media feeds.
That's a great way to put it. And Green reminds us that life is short.
Yeah.
We need to cultivate a sense of urgency about pursuing what truly matters, rather than squandering our precious time on trivial pursuits or getting bogged down in busy work that doesn't actually move us closer to our goals.
That sense of urgency is so important. It's a reminder that we don't have unlimited time to achieve our goals, to make our mark on the world, to live a life of purpose and meaning.
Exactly. And he links this sense of urgency
Yeah.
to the importance of maintaining high standards in our work, of striving for excellence in everything we do.
Right.
It's about pushing ourselves beyond our comfort zones, challenging ourselves to grow and learn, and never settling for good enough when we know we're capable of more.
It's not about perfectionism, but about having that drive to constantly improve, to refine our craft, to become masters of our chosen fields, whatever those fields might be.
Precisely. And he highlights Leonardo da Vinci as a model for this kind of relentless pursuit of excellence. Da Vinci, driven by his motto, ostinato rigore, relentless rigor, brought an incredible level of focus and dedication to everything he did, constantly pushing the boundaries of his knowledge and skill.
Da Vinci, what an inspiring example. It's amazing to think about the vast range of his accomplishments, from painting and sculpture to engineering, anatomy, and botany. He was a true Renaissance man, a testament to the power of curiosity, creativity, and that relentless pursuit of knowledge and mastery.
He truly was an exceptional individual, and Green argues that we can all cultivate that same spirit of relentless rigor, that commitment to excellence in our own lives, even if we don't reach Da Vinci's level of genius.
Right.
It's about setting high standards, paying attention to detail, and never settling for good enough when we know we can do better.
It's a reminder that true mastery takes time, effort, and a willingness to constantly challenge ourselves to grow, to learn from our mistakes, and to never stop honing our skills.
That's a brilliant way to put it. And when we cultivate this inner authority, something remarkable happens. We become less dependent on external validation and approval.
Okay.
We develop a deep sense of self-reliance, knowing that our worth and value come from within, not from the opinions of others.
That's such a powerful shift. It's about moving from a place of insecurity and neediness to a place of confidence and inner strength. We no longer need constant reassurance or approval from others because we have that deep inner knowing that we are enough just as we are.
Exactly. It's a journey for sure, but one that's incredibly rewarding. And as we strengthen that inner authority, our outer authority becomes more genuine, more impactful, and more enduring. It's like our inner strength radiates outward, inspiring trust and respect in those around us.
It's a virtuous cycle. The more we cultivate our inner authority, the more we naturally project genuine authority in the world. And I think that's a perfect segue into the final part of our deep dive. We've explored the complexities of authority, the pitfalls of entitlement, and Green's powerful strategies for cultivating both inner and outer authority.
Yeah.
But what does it all mean? What are the key takeaways that we can apply in our own lives?
You've led us to a great concluding point. After all this, what have we learned about authority? For me, the most powerful takeaway is that true authority is earned, not given.
Right.
It's not about your title,
Yeah.
your status, or your outward appearance. It's about cultivating a deep understanding of human nature, honing your leadership skills, and most importantly, embodying the qualities that inspire trust, respect, and a willingness to follow.
That's a brilliant summary.
Yeah.
And it resonates so much with what we've been discussing. It's not about demanding respect or relying on your position to get people to do what you want.
Right?
It's about earning that respect through your actions, your character,
Yeah.
and your commitment to serving something larger than yourself.
Precisely. And that makes me think about all the times I've encountered people in positions of power who seem to completely lack genuine authority.
Right.
They might have had the impressive title, the corner office, the outward trappings of power, but they didn't inspire any real respect or loyalty.
It's like they were trying to rely on those external markers of authority, but it just felt hollow and inauthentic. And you could sense that the people around them weren't truly engaged or invested.
Exactly, and it often stems from that entitlement crease we talked about earlier. When people believe they deserve authority, simply because of their position or their status, they neglect to cultivate the qualities that actually earn it.
It's a reminder that true authority is a gift we receive from those we lead. It's not something we can demand or enforce. It has to be freely given, based on trust, respect, and a belief in our leadership.
That's beautifully put. And it leads me to a final provocative thought for our listener. I'd encourage you to reflect on a leader you truly admire, someone who embodies genuine authority. What qualities make them stand out? How do they inspire trust and respect? And how might you cultivate similar traits in your own life?
That's a great question to ponder. And it doesn't have to be a famous leader or a CEO. It could be a teacher, a mentor, a community leader, a parent, or even a friend who demonstrates those qualities of genuine authority.
Absolutely. Authority can manifest in all sorts of relationships and contexts.
Yeah.
And by observing and reflecting on those examples, we can learn a great deal about how to cultivate it in our own lives.
This deep dive has been so rich and thought-provoking. I'm feeling inspired to step up my own leadership game and to cultivate a deeper understanding of this fascinating dynamic of authority.
I'm so glad to hear that. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. Keep experimenting with these strategies. Keep observing those who embody genuine authority. And keep striving to become the kind of leader you'd be inspired to follow.
That's great advice. And until next time, keep diving deep, everyone.